Our topic is about domestic violence against women in Canada. This issue is something that women face daily. They are too scared to come forward and speak about it because they are frightened of their partner. We are focusing on the women in Canada who have been through and are going through domestic violence right now, which is also known as aggressive behavior against their partner. Every 6 days, we have a woman in Canada that is killed by her intimate partner. 6,000 women and children sleep in shelters because it isn't safe for them at home, and 67% of Canadians know women that have experienced physical or sexual abuse. At a glance, you can notice these women face these issues every single day. These three listed facts are just some of the examples women face with domestic violence. As we progress through our presentation, we explain the issue of domestic violence and how women go on to deal with it. You will be able to understand what domestic violence is by learning more about how damaging it can be towards a human and the impacts it leaves, not just mentally, but also physically. It truly changes one's life.
What is domestic violence? Domestic violence, also known as intimate partner violence, is an aggressive or violent pattern of behavior used by one partner to gain control or power over the other partner. According to Canadian Women Foundation, the violence is often caused by gender inequality and a false belief that men have the right to control their spouse. Women experiencing violence are more likely to develop anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and sleep disorders. The Canadian Women Foundation states that cost of violence against women is approximately $7.4 billion per year in Canada for social service, criminal justice, health care, and lost wages. Stats Canada 2019 reported that approximately every 6 days, a woman in Canada is killed by her intimate partner. In every collection of 10 women, 4 or more of them will have experienced some form of intimate partner violence. Indigenous women and girls are 7 times higher than non-Indigenous women and 12 times more likely than Caucasian women. Women with a disability are 3 times the regular rate of non-disabled women, and those who identify as queer, lesbian, or bisexual are 3 to 4 times as likely. Immigrant women are also exceptionally vulnerable in terms of them being less likely to report violence and lack in knowledge of resources. Survivors and victims of violence experience physical, mental, and emotional repercussions. Disorders like PTSD, depression, and other psychosomatic disorders only skim the surface. Reproductive health as well as physical functioning toward life quality are directly affected. Narratives of victims living risky lifestyles and their perpetrators' excuse for substance abuse or mental illness neglect the inherent socio-cultural beliefs that normalize IPV. This pandemic of gendered violence and domestic abuse against women are estimated to cost over $7.4 billion annually. This is an intersectional issue compounded with racism, homophobia, classism, ableism, and many others. Microaggressions and normalized behavior that only women learn to stay safe are the reactionary causes to this inequality. Gender-based violence is found everywhere. It can be found in demeaning language, objectifying media representations, and societal norms.
Domestic abuse against women has been an ongoing issue for many years. Due to its widespread prevalence and its far-reaching immediate and long-term consequences for victims, their families, and communities as a whole, intimate partner violence is considered a major public health issue. When thinking of domestic abuse, the one thing you always think of is how could anyone hurt the person they love? We think of it to be such a hard thing to do when in reality, women were considered property to men for a very long time. Women have just recently been able to make their mark in the world. Women in 1996 earned 66% of what men earned, making it known to women that they weren't equals to men. Men got to feel superior and in control. In the 1970s and 80s, this issue started to hold substance with the public attention. And just in the 1990s, a little over 30 years ago, changes to the criminal code clarified the consent issues. Although wife beating is a form of assault and punishable under the criminal code, the court hesitates to find a husband guilty of beating his wife without a third-party witness, which was almost impossible to prove. For the history of domestic abuse against women, yes, history has started to change, but there's not enough being done with this ongoing issue.
We can reduce and resolve this issue by increasing the accessibility to programs. We are calling on all community centers to provide domestic violence prevention and awareness programs. The programs should include the cycle of violence, the various forms of abuse, effective safety planning, and how to resist re-engaging the abuser. These are critical components that will significantly impact the reduction of domestic violence. We also call on all community centers to provide trauma-informed counselors and psychotherapists to facilitate healing of victims and survivors. By increasing the amount of community centers delivering this vital prevention program, the more accessible it becomes, the more awareness is brought to communities, and the closer society comes to reducing domestic violence. Together, we can break the silence and end the violence.